this morning, folks, on Bloomberg Surveillance, I spoke with Willem Bouter, usually in London, now with Citigroup New York, and I asked him how he would change the U.S. fiscal system.
Fiscal policy at the federal level is a complete disaster. There's gridlock. The U.S. tax system is completely incomprehensible. My wife and I are PhDs in economics, both of us, and we can't make head or tail of it. So there's something very wrong there.
That is the funniest. Ken Pruitt and I have laughed in the many years we've done Bloomberg Surveillance. With us, Alan Ruskin is a good Professor Bouter, usually in London, comes over and has to fill out his American tax systems. We have frictions within the market, don't we?
We do. There's all sorts of things. Some of the frictions obviously do relate to the idea of what the U.S. is going to do ultimately in terms of fiscal consolidation. I think you see some of the tensions in the bond market, for example, coming through, whereby bond yields are backing up. And I think there's a sense that the equilibrating yield, if you take the Fed out the equation, is definitely a higher bond yield than we've seen so far.
Okay, what's the Fed going to do about it? The chairman's been lecturing at George Washington. That was fun yesterday, but unfortunately we get the bond market to start going. Are you confident we won't see higher yields?
Well, I think the Fed's instinct is to resist what they would see as a premature rise of the bond yields and a premature tightening of financial conditions. I think they finally are seeing that the economy is picking up some degree of traction after a long 3 years. So you really don't want to in any way sort of sidestep this so far. So I think resistance will mostly come through them really just changing the way they're actually talking about the economy. They'll focus on low levels of activity rather than growth rates.
Everybody's got a plan here. I'm serious. I mean, I had Robert Mundell, the laureate, yesterday. Rick Mishkin was on this morning. Everybody's got a plan. Everybody's got a belief in the future. We're just grasping at straws, aren't we? We really don't know the monetary outcome once rates go up. I mean, this is a new territory.
We don't. I think we don't know exactly how you can exit smoothly out of some operation like Operation Twist, which is really distorting market forces.
Yeah.
And I think what you're seeing here is really that the bond markets, the Fed's really bottled in bond volatility. And when you distort markets like that, when you step away, you get volatility to really pump up.
Wonderful, Alan. Nicely said. Here's the 5-year yield. Here's 2011. Here is the Bernanke effort to provide substantial accommodation. And this is the pop in yields. We've only come back a little bit, but if we get up further, you're suggesting we don't get a smooth glide path, a smooth release of all these distortions.
No, I think the Fed will try resist it, as I said, sort of on the verbal side of things. If we go way too far, I think the Fed will then put out the prospect that they might still, in fact, have to do another round of QE, directed more at the financial markets than really what's going on in the short term in terms of the economy.
We are back, a Forex report. Let's go right to it. We look at euro yen. Forget about the dollar. It's a non-dollar policy. It's a non-dollar chart. Euro yen, stronger yen, and you can see that recent weaker yen. Alan Ruskin with us from Deutsche Bank. Can the yen put it on and give what Toyota wants, which is a weaker yen, or is this it?
Well, I think what you're seeing is really the yen's been used as a funding currency. It's been used as a funding currency against a host of different things. The euro is just one currency. I think it could still weaken further, really. I think it's mostly a sort of a default story. Stronger U.S. data has ruled the U.S. dollar out. Slightly better European stories taken the euro off the picture. Same story with the pound. And the yen really, it's really bubbled to the top, really. And the key, I think, will be China. If China starts to pick up growth, then we'll see the yen, I think, start to improve somewhat.
Yeah. We're hearing rumors Tim Tebow to the Jets. I just heard, Emily, if that's true, see if you can get official surveillance Jets analyst Mohamed El-Arian on the phone, ESPN reporting that. Let's bring up this op-ed here. Boy, is there enough going on here? Tim Tebow to the Jets. Tim Tebow and Ryan, that's amazing. Desmond Lachman. Time for Greece to leave the euro. This is the AEI magazine, The American. It is difficult to overstate how badly the Greeks have misled by the IMF and EU. Greece's only path is to reintroduce a drachma. Do you agree, Ellen?
Oh, wow. That would be rather unhelpful for, I think, everyone. We're not ready for that, I'm afraid. Maybe in 2-3 years' time, we've bought enough time and we're okay and we're all set. But I think in terms of Greece, no. They're going to have to try toughen it out for the time being.
What's your grade for the IMF? Not the Lagarde IMF, but the IMF in general through the last 5 years.
Well, I think they're hamstrung to some degree with a lack of funds. I mean, the scale of some of the problems is large, and I don't think everyone's up for actually putting in new funds, not least the United States. So I think that's a bit of a problem. I think in terms of the way they've gone about saying these are the particular problems in Europe, I think they've pretty much been on target.
But this is true. I mean, the IMF is a much smaller financial entity than I think most people perceive.
Absolutely, and particularly relative to the global economy and relative to some of the countries that you're actually potentially going to bail out. Not just at the moment in terms of the European problem, but the size of the problems that could evolve in the emerging world as well.
Let's look at this one chart. This chart surprised me. I use my vast knowledge of French. Mon Dieu. France still wide. I was taken by this. Within all the bailout talk, I mean, France is supposed to be like down in the lower left, right next to Germany. It isn't, is it?
It isn't. And it isn't, I think, in part because of a few things. But the most obvious thing is really the French elections coming up. So there's all sorts of uncertainty there about how Francois Hollande will treat the fiscal compact and the renegotiations, etc. You don't buy that one, Tom?
I don't know if it's election-centric. Yeah. I think there's a lot going... I just think there's a lot more going on here.
No, I think that's right. I mean, in the sense of, there's a longer-term European systemic problem that's out there. And I think, Willem Bater spoke to the Spanish problem. There's potentially still an Italian problem out there. There's a Portuguese problem for sure.
Can you come back for a whole hour sometime?
Love to.
We may have to do a 2-hour show. Me and Mark Crumpton and Alan Ruskin. We'll do that. Alan Ruskin, thank you so much. From Deutsche Bank.